Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Binford Chronicles. I bet you're wondering, why is Joanne so happy? I'm happy because tonight I not only have a friend coming on, but a true patriot. Tonight we're joined by Royce Bartlett, AM radio host, shooting straight on WMMB, and a professional firearms instructor with Royce Productions Inc. Now, listen, guys, before we dive into today's more pressing political and constitutional issues, I'm going to have Royce share his background in talk radio and firearms training. We'll be discussing Minneapolis, the Second Amendment, and carrying during a protest. Yes, that's going to come up. And then we'll touch on broader cultural issues facing the country, concerns over the Islamification of U.S. cities, whether those trends are reaching past Texas borders and entering into Florida, and how H-1B visa fraud impacts national security, labor, and sovereignty. It's going to be a direct, no nonsense conversation on media, guns, politics, and the future of America. So stand by after this commercial message, and we'll be right back.
On July 3rd, for the first time, and on November 1st, we'll turn the lights on for every city so that every city with a person signed up will begin to light up the world, intending to pray 2 minutes for America. Each event will start on the minute, and we will be led through the app on July 3rd. Everyone in Christian ministry, and on November 1st, the entire world will be invited to push the Pray Now button and pray for America for 2 minutes. Then push the I Just Prayed button, and your city light turns red and blinks for 2 months. And then as people finish their 2 minutes, they all click I Just Prayed. The white lights turn red and blink for 2 minutes for America, all over the world.
Welcome back, everybody, to Binford Chronicles. If you're just joining us, remember to hit the like, share, and comments, please, while you're watching the show. And today, if you didn't hear me before the commercial, we are bringing on Royce Bartlett, AM radio host of Shooting Straight on WMMB, and a professional firearms instructor with Royce Productions. Welcome, Royce.
Thank you, Joanne. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Royce, it's just been such a pleasure. God just he has things in store for us that we just don't know. And I remember meeting you, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something. Oh, I actually met you farther back, but actually meeting you in person and getting to know you was during my campaign running for county commission. And, we started meeting in different groups, because we move around in the same circles. We're both patriots for America, so we're always supporting things that are good for our nation.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I want to make a correction. I'm no longer on the radio live anymore. I'm strictly on podcast, and it has greatly exploded the listenership. So I'm in every city in America now, which I wasn't able to do necessarily on WMMB, even though they're part of the iHeartRadio network. After 7 years, it took it off the air because it's really expensive to do radio. It's like $400 an hour to produce a program. Yeah.
Is it really that expensive now?
Yes, it sure is. And it's probably more than that, because I took it off the air back in 2021 and just went to a podcast platform, and it's a lot cheaper to produce. That's for sure.
And it's amazing the expansion that you have with that.
Yeah, it did. I already had a good following in Brevard County, Florida, and that's still my best listenership. And that's a good thing, because that's where all my sponsors are. But yeah, it's really all over the world now. I get feedback from people in just about every state now, reaching out and talking about the program and offering advice and articles and other things like that. So yeah, it's been a wild ride for since 2014, actually, going on 12 years.
Yeah, I remember when I first heard your voice at, Sheriff Ivey's, event there in Brevard County. That was the Second Amendment event.
Hmm. That Second Amendment forum out there at that massive ballroom at the Holiday Inn. Yeah, that
Yeah,
thing was packed out that night. There were people standing out in the hallway. That
it
was
really
great.
was. Well,
Yeah,
that was a time because that's when they actually changed legislation from age 18 to 21 too.
hmm.
Because I remember going to Tallahassee with a group of people, and at that time, Shooting Straight uh, rented all the buses for everybody to be able to go up to Tallahassee. The firearms place, Shooting Straight.
Oh, no, straight shooter.
Or
Yeah,
Straight Shooter, yeah, that's right, and they had rented all the buses to get all of the conservatives up there
yeah.
to support the Second Amendment and to, let our representatives know that they should not change the age to 21. Because
But
I
they
was
did anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, they did anyway, and, that's where I met, Mark Keith Robinson.
Oh yeah, that was up in Tallahassee. Yes, I spoke
Yeah,
there with him that day. Yeah,
yeah,
he's a fine patriot. Got to speak with him and his wife Yolanda.
yep.
Great people. Yeah, we had a great time that weekend, and man, I never forget that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, because I met him at several. The first time I met him was at West Palm Beach when they were having rallies there because of the Douglas Stoneman incident,
Right.
and
Hmm.
that's where I met George Cologne with the Bikers for 45. And,
Hmm.
they were there all on their bikes, and I had rode my bike all by myself down there, and it rained that day, and he's like, "Did you come down here by yourself? Where'd you come from?" And I said, "Vero Beach, all by yourself?" And I said, "Yeah, man, I had to come. This is about our Second Amendment, like, this is crazy stuff. Like, we gotta support it and show up."
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, it's nice because you meet a lot of other like-minded people in these circles, and you work together, and, like, I've known you for a while now, and
Hmm.
it's been such a blessing to know people like you and patriots like us that are willing to stand up and fight and even go to Tallahassee to meet with our representatives about bad legislation and then
Yes.
telling them what good legislation is.
Yes. I remember also meeting Eric Pratt with Gun Owners of America up there. I had spoken to him before. He'd been on my program before, but I had never met him in person. And that guy is a bulldog, man. I tell you what, GOA, they are the bulldogs of the Second Amendment advocacy. Those guys never sleep. I tell you, they're always on it. They're always filing uh, bills and lawsuits and things to uphold and defend the Second Amendment. Great people. Hickok 45 was there also that weekend. I remember that we were up there. So that was quite a star-studded event. I got to hang around some heavy hitters. I really enjoyed myself. So
Yeah, that was the first time I went to Tallahassee, and I ran into a bunch of those groups too, and I even got lost because I went with one group, and then I was like, "Where are you guys going? We should go with this group. If Gun Owners is here, let's follow them around because they have appointments with the legislators." And then I ended up getting lost from my group, and
yeah,
it's so confusing when you get up there because the buildings are totally separate and you got to go through the little bridges to get to
yep,
different places, and certain elevators go to certain floors, and for a while there I think I spent like an hour trying to find my way back to my group, and I ended up following another Second Amendment group, and then we were passing in the hall and I go, "There's my group."
you get lost there pretty easy and turned around.
Yeah, you do. But it's really great that we have so many wonderful patriots like you, and just it's fantastic. But today I wanted to cover a few things. We've got Pam Bondi that wrote the letter to Waltz, and I wanted to play a little piece of that because I just think sometimes she just wants to sound like she's firm, but she really doesn't sound firm,
Yeah.
and it's kind of, let's go there.
rape, homicide, manslaughter. That's who they're trying to protect in Minnesota. I do not understand these people. We sent Governor Walz a very strong letter today. We had been working on this letter. We got it out saying that he better support President Trump. He better support the men and women in law enforcement, because if he doesn't, we are. And that's what we're doing right now.
Were there any consequences in this letter?
Well, we'll see. This is fluid. Let's see how Governor Walz responds. Let's see what he does based on this, based on what's happening right now. But this administration is going to support the citizens. We're going to support our great men and women in law enforcement.
What do you think about that?
It kind of reminds me of the UN and their non-binding resolutions. That's what that sounds like to me. Oh, look out. We'll send you a strongly worded letter, Mr. Waltz.
I know.
I will tell Mr. Waltz right here and right now, he had better be grateful to God that Royce Bartlett is not president of the United States. I would already have the military in there, and he would be in handcuffs along with Mr. Fry and all the other fraudsters up there and all the agitators and everybody trying to gin up the useful idiots. And that's what's going on now, of course. They would all be in handcuffs. I would not play around with that. I wouldn't be diplomatic about it at all. There would be no letter. There would be a phone call from the Oval Office to Tim Walz and tell him flat out, you got exactly 3 days to unscrew yourself, or I'm bringing the military in and you're leaving in handcuffs, period. Because what they are doing, and he knows it, Fry knows it, they are committing an act of flagrant insurrection. They are blatantly and flagrantly defying federal law that has a good, firm foothold in the Constitution on top of that, because the president, he has the right to enforce immigration policy. Matter of fact, that's his duty, and that's what he's trying to do. So Mr. Trump has been very nice to him thus far. I would not be, because I'm unfortunately one of those very direct people. I'm going to go right from A to B, and here it is. And if you don't like that, then it's swing time. So that's just me. That should never have been dealt with kid gloves. And as far as Pam Bondi, she should have never been chosen for that position. And I say that with charity. She did not do a good job here in Florida. She defended anti-Second Amendment legislation, which was the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act of 2018, which was passed on a wave of emotion. And if there hadn't been that emotional wave, it never would have passed. So I guess they all thought that, well, because one little 18-year-old snot-nosed demonic punk decided to walk into his school and shoot a bunch of his classmates, former classmates, and teachers, therefore, all of the other 18 to 20-year-olds throughout the entire state now have to be punished. It's because of what he did and his actions, that now governs the free exercise of their rights somehow. No, it doesn't. And we're still fighting to get that overturned. Bad legislation does damage, and it does it for what? It's been 2018. We're at 7 years, almost 8 years now, that grown adults who can freely exercise any of their other rights are not allowed to go purchase a firearm.
Yeah, so, and if they're of military age, they go and get all kinds of military training on how to handle a firearm, and they come home. Actually, they're probably the safest people to have a firearm with all the military training that they've been through, and then they come home and they're not allowed to have a firearm.
Yeah, well, the government, no government in the United States has any constitutional authority to enact or enforce any firearms law. There's a very plain prohibition in the Second Amendment, not to mention the 14th Amendment that says no state shall enact or enforce any law that contravenes any of the rights of American citizens. So no state has the right to pass any gun control on top of that. So Florida had no right to do that. And most of the gun control laws here in Florida were rooted in the Jim Crow days anyway, and they were aimed entirely at Black Americans. So there's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, it's really, it's very disappointing. I was hoping that Trump would have stuck it out with Matt Gaetz.
Yeah,
because I think Matt Gaetz would have did a better job.
I think so too. He's fiery enough. I think Pam Bondi is too much of a politician, for lack of a better way to put it. She wants to be liked by everybody, and she wants to try to ride the rail and come down on whatever side of the fence happens to be the warmest at the time. And that's her problem. She's a political animal.
Yeah, she is. And then we went to then I talking about Minneapolis, you've got all the riots over there. They're attacking, border patrol, they're attacking all of these people that are there to protect people. And it's
Hmm.
not called an insurrection like you said earlier, whereas, our citizens went to the Capitol to peacefully rally. They
Right.
rally and say, hey, look at us, we want you to investigate the elections. We didn't go there protesting like, we went there and we were like peaceful, singing
Yeah.
songs. Yeah, some people broke in, but there was a grandma that went in and prayed, and they went and tracked her down and arrested her.
Yes. And if you want to see how they're going to treat the rest of us if they ever take power again, what the Biden administration did will be exponentially on steroids, because once these communists have control again, they're not going to turn it loose, and it's going to be civil war time. There's no other way to put that. They want what they want, and we want what we want. We want to keep our country under the Constitution, and they want to totally rule this country. And they're the kind of people that would gladly burn the whole thing down as long as they get to rule over the ashes. And that's what we're
Hmm.
up against. We already know how they think. We know what they do. They they want us disarmed for a reason. Uh,
Absolutely.
and they are a typical totalitarian communist, and they want their way.
And now they're impeachment again, not just impeachment of the president. Now they want to impeach Christy Nome
Oh yeah.
for what happened, you
Uh-huh.
know. And I wanted to show that, but before I show that video of Alex Petty, I want to show Christy Nome. And the reason I want to show this is because the statement she made about caring in a protest. And I get that they want to vilify this guy, but to me, it has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. And it's just this guy's insane attitude. And the way she made it sound, I want to say they want nobody to have a firearm when they leave the house to go anywhere where you have a difference of opinion. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's crossing that line. So let me pull up this
Rape,
video.
homicide, manslaughter.
Let me get
That's who
this
they're
one
trying to
going,
protect in Minnesota.
and I'll grab that video. Just give me a second here. My media files. And Christy Nome is here.
Did the 37-year-old who had a license to carry, did he brandish a gun? And point, did law enforcement retrieve the gun and also the magazines from him? Can you offer clarity on
This
where
individual
those were found?
showed up to impede a law enforcement operation and assaulted our officers. They responded according to their training and took action to defend the officer's life and those of the public around him. And I don't know of any peaceful protester that shows up with a gun and ammunition rather than a sign. This is a violent riot when you have someone showing up with weapons and are using them to assault law enforcement officers.
See, that annoyed me when she said that, because I can tell you right now, I'm a concealed carrier. And I've been to rallies where I've concealed carried. It's my
Yep.
right. When the rally's over and I'm walking by myself to my car, I want to feel safe. But just because I'm carrying and going to a rally doesn't mean I have no intention to be peaceful. So that kind of bothered me when she said that.
Well, it bothers me too, because just a few years ago, many patriots showed up at uh, the state house in Virginia, fully armed, kitted out, ARs at the slung, and sidearms, and not to mention everything else. And they were very peaceable. Thank God for that. Otherwise,
Mhm.
things got really nasty. But I don't know what she's talking about. You shouldn't carry a gun to a protest. On the flip side of that, excuse me, on the flip side of that, I don't think any leftist should be carrying a gun at all because they can't be trusted with them.
That's
That's
very true.
no,
That is
seriously.
very, very true because they
He,
are violent.
yeah, here's the other thing. While he was a licensed concealed carrier, there is no way on the planet those agents had any way to ascertain that in the split seconds that they were dealing with him in a situation. He was already known to them because he had been very violent with them just a week prior, had literally kicked a taillight off of one of the federal vehicles, ended up getting tackled and a rib broken in the process. And I can't help but wonder if maybe that is why he brought his gun. And it wouldn't surprise me if later we find out from other witnesses that he had made threats to get even with those guys. You just, it's something that can easily pop into your mind. And so they knew him from before. He came there armed. Unfortunately, the shooting itself, while it may not have been 100% justified, it is 100% understandable considering the confusion of the day, all of the violence those guys have been facing. The ICE agents have been facing repeated ramming attacks with vehicles, and not just what Miss Good did. There was over 100 assaults against them with vehicles in the last 6 months alone. That's something to take into consideration for sure. So these guys are walking into known hostile territory where people are throwing frozen water bottles at them, rocks, bricks, fecal matter, everything else. And I don't think if I see someone walking towards me, I'm going to just assume, hey, I bet he has a license for that gun. Oh, I bet he's a peaceful guy just coming to ask me a question. No, I'm going to be in fight mode. And if you get inside my personal space, you're going to meet the Irish side of me. So I totally, he set himself up for that, unfortunately.
He
And
did
he
because
set the stage for that.
he did because earlier on January 13th, he was out there protesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull up a sound bite showing how he protested, and then our viewers can decide whether he was being peaceful or not. So let's move
Mm-hmm.
over to that. I'm going to pull that sound bite up, and let's get that one out of my media files. And let me make sure I got that one. Here it is, January 13th. That's K19.
Yep.
Okay.
This is a moment the news movement filmed on January 13th in Minneapolis.
And this is News Moment filmed this.
Interacting with federal immigration agents 11 days before Border Patrol.
There goes your peaceful protester.
Yeah, Mr. Peaceful.
By the BBC.
I don't think I could kick a car that hard to make it break. And he had a weapon on him then, too. And they didn't take it away from him then.
On the morning of January 13th, our team received a tip.
There he is being an agitator.
Corner of East 46 and Park Avenue in Minneapolis.
That's a peaceful nurse right there.
Yeah.
And he spit on him.
Shouting at the agents as they walked back to their vehicles.
Oh, kicked again.
Away, the man kicked their
oh, that's a replay.
An agent then got out of the
but not peaceful at all. Not at all. And that's what some people are saying. Oh, he was a nurse, and
so what? So what?
I
don't care if he was an altar boy. His intentions were not good. He wasn't just there to help people. They can spin it any way they want. But I guarantee you, if they could have, they'd have suppressed the video you just showed right there, because they want to continue their false narrative. And communists are excellent at creating and maintaining false narratives, and they don't like when something comes to the surface to prove them wrong. And that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah, and when you think about it, these officers, these Border Patrol guys, ICE guys, I've got another video that's a little more, I've got to warn people about it. But the noise that they're listening to, like, it's total harassment. It's not just agitation, it's like whistles blowing, people
Mhm.
constantly yelling and screaming at you, and some of these leftists, I do not know how they do it, but they scream at the top of their lungs, and they do it, like, continuously. It's crazy.
Mhm.
It's like a child that's throwing a huge tantrum that has no control of their emotions, like,
Yes.
and they're dealing with that 24/7, people spitting at them, throwing
Yep.
things at them. I'd like to know how many people can mentally take that, you know? And then
Yeah.
you've
They're
had
tough
this,
dudes.
and then they had this guy on January 13th. This is before I think it was what, the 28th, the 23rd, or the 24th when the incident
27th, I
happened,
think.
the 27th when it happened. So they've
Don't
dealt with
quote me
him
on that.
before, so they already know he's an agitator.
Right.
And then that incident happened, and we can show that video. But I warn everybody, because I'm going to show you, because he was definitely being an agitator, and these guys are nervous for their lives, because we've already in our nation have seen how these protests go, and they've tried to take out our president more
Yep.
than once, and they took out Charlie Kirk for dialogue, for
Yep.
simple dialogue. He would never hurt you, he would never hit you, he would never, you know, beat you up. He just used simple dialogue.
Well, that's what scared them because they don't, when it comes to dialogue, they fail, they fall short. And that's why they have to resort to slander and calling him names. And of course, they called him a fascist. I'm like, how many fascists hand you a microphone and say, here, talk to me? Yeah.
I know,
They'll call you whatever they want in order to demonize you enough to give themselves justification to kill you. That's really what it boils down to.
yeah, so now that everybody saw this agitation video, I'm going to show them the video of what happened. I'm going to try to lower the volume because it gets really loud. And I'm like, wow, I can't even handle all that noise listening to
Mhm.
it on the video alone, to think that I'm dealing with that in uniform all day long, like
Yeah.
for hours on end, hours on end. And people have to understand this. It's a mind game, it totally, and these guys are trained for it, but it's still a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
So I did, this is 20. Yeah.
Honestly.
Do you hear that whistle?
Yep. Yep.
You see, right there is when he got nervous, because this is the same agitator that was just what, 6, 7 days earlier
Yeah.
kicking, and now he's still fighting aggressively against them, and he could have at any second pulled that out. These guys are worried about their lives,
Yes. Well,
and
there was
that
a
was an
perfect
imminent
storm.
threat.
Yeah, I study a lot of use of force things because I teach justifiable use of force statute here in Florida. Um, Unfortunately, everything that I've seen from this incident, he put himself there. He created that. He was fighting them while he was on the ground. And at one point, when he came up, he had his cell phone in his right hand. He had already had been disarmed, apparently. But there's no way that all those agents knew he was disarmed. And the fact that two of them fired at him means two of them felt justified in using deadly force. So everything they were seeing, everything they're hearing, everything they already knew about him, all of that came into a big cumulative mess right there. To couple that with all the confusion, all the whistleblowing, everything else, plus the very heightened awareness that these agents are, that mode that they're in, uh, he brought this on himself. Again, was he holding the gun when he got smoked? Nope, he wasn't. I saw that. But
Mhm.
he certainly set the stage for this. And frankly, I can't call that a bad shoot. There's been plenty of shootings by police officers that I have looked at and said, no way, that cop needs to go to jail. I can't say that in this case. I really can't.
And it's hard to tell if he was reaching for someone else's firearm. It's hard to tell what was happening because there were so many people around him. And I know they took a lot of angles, but even so, if you are going to attack border control or ICE, any federal government, right there, it's jail time, you
Well, it
know?
is. Everything just touching one of those agents, that's considered battery in the eyes of the law. Assault is the motion, battery is the actual contact. He moved towards them. Oh, he was
Mhm.
just trying to help that poor lady. He put his hands on agents just like he did a week prior. Just putting your hands on an agent is 8 years in a federal penitentiary. So, right there, they're already being assaulted for all intents and purposes. So, again, he set the stage, unfortunately. If he had walked towards them and when they were about to make contact, he put his hands in a surrender type position, okay, now we got a different story. He didn't. He put them out towards the agent. And when they went to push him back, he put his hands on the agent. That's 8 years right there. So
Mhm.
he's already committed assault and battery on a federal officer. People don't understand that as far as being part of the use of force continuum. He started that, sadly.
Yeah, they could have arrested him on the 13th, which they probably should have.
Yeah.
They probably would have let him out the very next day,
Yeah.
but because it's Minneapolis, right?
Yes.
And
Well,
and but he's at least it would have let him realize I'm going to go back to jail. Um,
something that comes into play here also is what the way these agents are trained. You should never assume somebody only has one gun, ever. I, for one, don't carry just one gun. There's usually I got a Glock 19 in my 3 o'clock position, and got a Glock 43X, and nobody else's business where it is. But uh, I've always got two guns on me. So if they've already taken one gun, and I don't remember hearing the agent that took the gun saying, I've got the gun, even though they said later he said that, claimed to have a recording of it. Again, though, how can his fellow agents hear him if he did say that with those whistles blasting away? Now
and the
he's reaching into his
screaming.
waistband again, and maybe he didn't know his gun had been taken off of him, and the agents see him reaching. There's also some evidence that the agent who took his gun apparently touched the trigger or something. And when that shot went off, that basically caused a sympathetic response with the other agents.
Hmm.
That may be, I don't know. Um, Again, were they 100% totally in the eyes of the law justified? That I couldn't say that, but I can say there's no reasonable jury that would convict them if you got the totality of the circumstances. Again, they already knew him. Whoop, sorry,
Mhm.
kicking my desk. They already knew him. They knew he was violent. There's no
Mhm.
reason to assume otherwise.
Yeah, they already knew he was a risk, and with that party being so violent, that group of people, and they're paid protesters, so we know
Yes,
they're paid, they're organized, they
very
and
organized.
yes, and they come in buses. I mean, they came. We had some paid protesters here in Vero Beach when they had the No Kings protests. I mean, there's never, ever has there ever been a corner rally in Vero Beach that's had like 200 people on it, because our
Especially if
town
they're
is
all
so
holding the
small.
same sign. Yeah.
Yeah, and our town is so small. We have what, 170,000 residents, to
Wow.
get 200 people out there when most of them are seniors is really hard pressed, you know?
Right. Well, they know the seniors need a little extra money, so they're going to, try to get them. Plus, a lot of them are retired and not working, and they target them intentionally because of that.
So, Royce, how did you feel about Cash Patel when he first came on board?
I still don't have all my mental ducks in a row with him, and there's still something in my gut that is waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't
I
think
I like how he preached, when he wasn't on board, and when he came on board, things just didn't seem to be happening. And
and still
that
aren't.
no, they still aren't. You're right. And then, with this whole shooting thing, he made a statement as well. And I kind of want to play that for you. Let me
Honestly.
get rid of this one. And he totally just burned his bridges with me when I saw this because I was like, "Are you kidding me? Is that what you're really going to stand by?"
Morning. And I know that this is a DHS investigation, but there is outrage across the country that there is another killing. Someone is dead at the hands of Border Patrol. What can you tell us?
Great to be with you, Maria. And look, Secretary Noem stated it perfectly. You do not get to attack law enforcement officials in this country without any repercussions. You do not get to do that in Minnesota, LA, or anywhere else. And the interagency is leading the charge out there. We've already arrested with the interagency those that violated the FACE Act and impeded a peaceful prayer in church. We've already just last night arrested 4 more individuals involved in the damage of government property that we saw the videos of online. We've arrested other individuals who've made threats to law enforcement online. So we are not messing around. It doesn't have to be in person. If you threaten law enforcement officials or civilians, we are going to come find you. And as for this latest shooting, yes, DHS and HSI are the lead, and the FBI is processing the physical evidence. So we're in possession of the firearm, which is going to go to our laboratory. But as Secretary Noem said, no one who wants to be peaceful shows up at a protest with a firearm that is loaded with 2 full magazines.
First of all, I'm going to tell you this. When I carry, I have 2 magazines.
I have more than that.
So, like, he sounds great in the beginning, and then I'm like, is he ever going to defend the Second Amendment? Like, this is, the bad guys carry firearms because they want to do bad things,
Well,
but
that's
good
kind of where
guys,
it comes off. Yeah, that's kind
yeah,
of how it comes out. Well, if you carried a gun, you have bad intentions.
exactly. It's
No,
like,
that's not
no,
true. I've been
it's
carrying a gun for what now? Over 40 years.
It's the
So,
wrong message, it's like you get 2 messages there. It's like, "Okay, I like what you're saying now because that makes sense." But then he
right,
turns around and he's not defending or protecting our Second Amendment rights. He's just throwing it out there. So, like, maybe in the future, cities wanna say, "You cannot have a firearm in this on you when you go to any rally or protest or anything like that." And here in the Capitol, you can bring your firearm. You just have to check it in, and you can't bring it in if you're going to scheduled meetings,
right.
you know? But it's like for him to say that, I just was like, "You know what? We need to replace you because
Well,
you're
him
still
and
not
Bondi
doing."
both.
Huh?
Him and Bondi both need to go. Bondi is constitutionally dyslexic when it comes to the Second Amendment. She does not have any idea what she's talking about. Uh, Creating that presidential office of defending the Second Amendment, whatever that's called, great idea, but you don't have someone like her head that up.
No.
She does not understand the Second Amendment, and sadly, I love President Trump. I don't think he understands the Second Amendment.
He does not. He does not. He has and I'll say it, I'll be blunt, he has pissed me off
Yeah, me
when it
too, a
comes
few
to the
times.
Second Amendment, and I'm like, "You know what? He's a businessman, and he's
There it
probably
is.
never really owned a gun." I love his business side. I love how he negotiates. I love that side. But there's another side of him that is just not compatible with representation of our Bill of Rights.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, he voted for he was talked into the bump stocks.
Yeah,
He'll say things about, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Or I'm like, stop it. Have somebody that, like, from Guns and Gadgets, or,
right.
Guns of America, GOA, be your Second Amendment people and talk to them about these issues. Don't talk to these
Absolutely.
advisors because he has a mixture of good and very bad advisors. You
Yes.
I mean, when he's endorsing he was in Miami a few years ago and he endorsed Jimenez, and the
Oh,
audience, the patriots booed, and he's like,
yep.
"Oh, what's wrong?" But he still endorsed him. I'm like,
Yeah.
you gotta listen to the people sometimes. You gotta
Well,
pull back that endorsement and look at your patriotic candidates. Sit down, have a long talk with them, have your best Second Amendment people or best patriots that talk with them and evaluate
mhm.
them and vet them instead of just being a politician and endorsing somebody because they're popular, you know?
Right. Or because they talk a good game. I personally believe that anybody wanting to run for public office anywhere in the United States, I don't care if it's only a municipal office, they should have to pass a grueling exam on the Constitution. I'm talking 2 days long minimum. Seriously. I remember when I became a general contractor in this state of Florida, they put me through a 19-hour long exam. 19 hours. Open book, but 19 hours. If I had to go through that just to set up a construction company here in the state of Florida, I think anybody running for public office, people who are going to be responsible for passing laws or proposing laws, any kind of legislation at all, you had better be a constitutional scholar. You had better know the amendments, what they mean. You better have case law in your head before you even sit down at office. Matter of fact, I do believe we should have some very draconian laws for all these politicians anyway, that
I
if
think
they
so.
do propose any kind of illegal law, and all gun control laws are illegal, they're forbidden by the supreme law. But if you try to propose one of those, you should be arrested and go to prison for 10 years at hard labor. Now, I told you draconian because that's Royce's idea. But at a minimum, 5 years. And the whole time you're in there, you need to be grilled and constitutional courses so you understand how bad your mistake was. You could have cost somebody their freedom.
Mm-hmm.
People sitting in prisons all over this country because they ran afoul of laws that should never have been written in the first place. Gun control. There are people going to jail every day because of gun control laws. And those laws were forbidden by our founders. They said flat out, you shall not infringe that. Like in the First Amendment, they said, Congress shall make no law. In the Second Amendment, they said, this shall not be infringed. That means in any way, shape, or form.
And it is.
Whether legislation, whether it's a policy, no matter what it is, you may not infringe this in any way. And if you look up the word arms, it's not talking about a snub-nosed .38 special. The word arms, very plainly, especially in the old 1828 Webster's Dictionary, is arms for war.
Mm-hmm.
We have every right to own fully automatic weapons, have every right to own suppressed weapons. If I want to mount a machine gun on the deck of my boat, and I don't even have a boat, but I'm just speaking hypothetically, then that's nobody's business but mine, as long as I'm a peaceable citizen.
That's
If I'm
right.
not a peaceable citizen, okay, then people who are not peaceable citizens, you don't try to keep them from getting guns, you get them out of society. If they're unfit to carry a weapon, they're unfit to be around anybody because they don't need a gun to kill you.
Nope. They can pick anything up and use it. They can use
There
their
you go.
car.
And some of them are, can do that barehanded even. They, strangle you or beat you to death. There's more people killed by feet, fists, knees, and elbows annually than by so-called assault weapons anyway. So
Yeah, that nobody really does the data on that, do they?
they do, but it's shoved under the table so nobody sees it. So even the CDC came out with their study trying to counter Gary Kleck's study that more guns equals less crime. And he came out with figures that said anywhere from 500,000 to 1.2 million times annually, Americans defend themselves with firearms. 99% of the time, they don't have to pull the trigger. Just the presence of the firearm sends the bad guy running and rethinking his career choices. But even CDC did a study on that, trying to refute that, came up with almost identical results. So this scourge of gun violence we have in this country, there's no such thing. That's a contrived media boogeyman. There is no scourge of gun violence. About 40,000 people annually in America die by gunshot, but that also includes all of the defensive shootings by civilians and police. So 40,000. What is that compared to the 250,000 annually killed by medical malpractice in this country? Yeah, we could. Don't get me started on this, Joanne. I'm telling you, I'll
That's why
run.
our insurance is so high, all those lawsuits.
There you go. Exactly.
You
But
know,
that's not even including.
malpractice lawsuits.
Yeah, well, that's not even including the medical injuries and also the addictions, the many addicts that are created by doctors who just don't think twice about prescribing um, heavy narcotics, opioids, and
Yeah,
things.
we went through the opioid era, and now we're
Yeah.
going through the fentanyl era.
I got two friends that were destroyed by opioids, hardworking, good, honest, stand up guys, and both of them ended up in jail.
Man,
Because their doctor put them on opioids, and matter of fact, one of them said, "I don't want these," but the doctor says, "I got nothing else that's going to cure your pain." So he got hooked on those things, and next thing you know, he's doing time.
man.
It annoys me heavily.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm running off at the mouth, and this is your show.
So, no, hey, listen, whatever happened to Trump when he said he was going to make firearms, reciprocal, your CCL reciprocal all over the nation? Whatever happened to that?
Well, my response to that is we already have that, and it's called the Second Amendment. From sea to
Mhm.
shining sea, that's my carry permit, according to the founders. I'm sick to death of having to pass a law to reinforce the Constitution. How about we just enforce the Constitution against people, especially elected officials? If we started there, we wouldn't have to even think about proposing a law that demands states recognize the supreme law. That's really all that is. You're telling
Mhm.
people, okay, New York, you have to recognize Florida's permit or any others to give any other two states. Uh, do you really think they're going to comply with that? Number one, they're not
No,
going to. No,
no.
no, they're not even complying with the Bruin principles, the Bruin decision of text and history. And there's still courts, lower courts, that are defiantly ruling against and purposely going against the not recognizing the Bruin principles of text and history, and they're doing it just to flip their middle finger up at the Supreme Court. Sadly,
Mhm.
we've got two parallel systems of justice in this country. One of them turns criminals out and prosecutes conservatives, and the other one abides by the rule of law. We've got we've got both now. We got two different systems in this country, sadly.
Yeah, I think what's saving this country right now from all of the border crossings, the Somalia fraud that we're seeing, the Islamification of cities like Dearborn, Michigan, Patterson, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, is that we are an armed society. Because I
Yeah.
think if we weren't an armed society, this progression would have been excelled, like kind
Oh
of like
yes.
Britain. Britain has pretty much lost its culture.
Oh yes. Yeah. They
You
know
know,
all
and
about the culture.
and right now, what they've chosen to do is to take over our country from within, jihad by the ballot.
Hmm.
So now all those generations are teaching them to get into government.
Yep.
Oh, we don't have to go to war. We can be peaceful. But the reason they're doing that, because if they did go to war with us, everybody that has a firearm, it would literally be a civil war.
Oh yes. Well, unfortunately, I do believe we're headed there, especially in the communist occupied territories. What we have the communists and the Muslims. They're aligned now. They're working in tandem. They're planning things
Mhm.
together now. I call it the M&M coalition, Marxists and Muslims, and they are actively working together now. This has been proven. Miss can't remember her name. She was talking about bringing some of the evidence of that out. But if you look at it, the Marxists and the Muslims, they agree on everything. If you really think about it, they all hate Christians. They all hate Jesus. They hate God, the Christian God, that is.
Mhm.
And they hate America. They hate Jews. We could go on and on. So it's a match made in hell. But you're right. I said this on my program a couple episodes back, and I thanked everybody listening and said, thank you for keeping and bearing arms, because I guarantee you that is the only thing keeping this country from being overrun by the Marxists and the Muslims at this time. So,
Yeah, I really do believe that, and I think they're working hard, and that's why they're creating all this violence and like Alex Petty, that could have been a whole setup to have the firearm there on purpose, have someone die under a firearm, and now we're gonna bring up, more regulations on firearms. We're gonna
yeah.
see the discussion come back up because they really want to disarm us so that it's an easy takeover. You know?
Yes.
But right now we're making them work at it where they're doing a good job working at it because they're actually using our funds. Like in Texas, they
Yeah.
use the student vouchers to help facilitate the classes and pay the bills for their Sharia classrooms. And
Mhm.
they're doing the same thing in Florida. So what do you think about that? Do you think uh, Texas's example of Sharia law is coming to Florida?
I believe it'll go anywhere people let it go. Texas, I'm really shocked at how bad some of those cities have fallen. It's kind of really stuns me. I mean, I thought I knew Texans, and I do know some Texans, and the ones I know would never stand for that. But uh, they want to take over the entire country. What I do also foresee eventually is a clash between the Marxists and the Muslims. They don't want to share. Neither one of them want to share. They want power, but they don't want to share power. So they're not going to do that. But Islamization is coming to Florida too. It's already in Tampa. It's already in Orlando. It's already down in Indian River County, as I understand it. Jacksonville, all the major, if you notice, the major cities. And when pretty soon they'll be out there in the streets as a sign of dominance and praying openly and blocking traffic like they're doing in New York, Chicago, and beyond, and even in Texas. They have
Mhm.
mosques to pray in. They don't have to pray in the street. They do that for a reason, and that's to
It's
show, hey, we're in
dominance.
control. We've conquered.
Right.
We're in charge. That's what that is.
That's to show dominance, exactly. It's
Yep.
like, "Nobody's stopping us, look what we're doing."
Yep.
We're
And
we're
they're,
we're stopping traffic in your streets, we're stopping you from walking down the street. We're
mhm,
all out here, and then they're televising that to the world because a lot of these guys, they're not even doing it privately anymore. They're going on YouTube and having their classes on YouTube. They're
yeah.
openly talking about it. Let me take you to a video on that because I've got a video on that where they're openly talking about it. And it's just amazing that it's gotten this bad. Um, Let me pull that video up. I'll go to my media files. Where's that guy? He's at, oh, and Charlie, Charlie Kirk was trying to warn people about this.
Now that the people of America are standing for you, will you share with them the light and the beauty and the majesty of Islam, or will you stay in hiding? Tell the young people to continue to study, to prepare themselves to become the doctors, the lawyers, the engineers, to become the mayor, the police chief, the leaders of Congress, and those that were born in America. Prepare yourself to be America's next president. Share with the people of Minnesota.
They're openly saying this.
Yep.
You can find this everywhere
Well, they
on
did that in
YouTube.
England. They did that in the UK. The mayor of London is a Muslim. The mayor of some of the other cities is a Muslim.
Mhm.
That's exactly what they're doing. They're doing it in Minnesota, Michigan, Texas. They're running for office. And now, of course, Mom Donnie in New York. This is not without design.
Yeah, Mom Donnie in New York where 9/11 took place. And I think this is the reason why they took out Charlie Kirk. Let's hear Charlie Kirk's message.
The question is macro Islam compatible with Western values? Macro. Of course it's not. There are three major reasons why. Islam does not believe in freedom of speech. Islam does not believe in freedom of religion. And Islam does not believe in separation of mosque and state. Those three things are antithetical to the West. In a Muslim majority country, most Muslim majority countries, you cannot criticize the Prophet Muhammad. In most Muslim majority countries, you do not have the same robust freedom of religion protections. And finally, whereas we in the West are very careful to try to intermix religion and state, they are commanded to actually go into the state and try to change the state to be more Islamic around the core pillars of Islam. And the last thing I'll finally say is I cannot see a single Western country that has become more Islamic and has become a better place to live that is happier or freer.
By what metric? Just happiness, quality of life?
Everything from quality of life, from cultural cohesion, from whether people want to live there, from prior to the native-born fertility rates.
Again, people watching this will say is your criticism of the religion itself or not Muslim
Britain
people? Because there are
learn,
British Muslims
Fine,
who have
but
been
you don't
born
have to caveat it all the time. I know you guys have to because you're British and all that. A culture ceases to exist when we don't have unified language. When you cannot talk to your neighbor. I'm not discounting that there are good individual Muslims. The question that we need to reckon with the West is Mohammedism compatible with the teachings of Blackstone? Is it compatible with the legacy of Wilberforce?
All right.
And the great thinkers that have come from this country? And I will say, no, there's a reason why when you go to these Islamic countries that you're not going to see the equal protection of rights, that you do not believe in universal human equality, that you do not believe the same things that we believe in the West. And I think it's suicidal to import millions of them. The question is...
It's like he was sharing that message.
Mm-hmm.
And it was spreading. The younger generation was picking up on it. People were listening, and people were like, if they were sleeping, they were waking up.
Well, you look at Marxism and Islam, they don't attract good people. They don't attract people with good values. When you're talking about Islam, you're talking about a religion where, let's say that a man has a daughter and she gets raped, he will kill his daughter. Yeah. Not only that, that man has the right, and they don't flat out say that you can rape your own daughter, but if you have sexual relations with your own daughter, that's okay, and that's winked at, actually, basically. So it's also a religion that has repeatedly practiced pedophilia of both sexes, and not to mention the violence they allow themselves to do. They talk about their prophet. I'm probably going to get another death threat for this. Bring it on. Their prophet was an evil piece of crap. And I'm trying to be polite here. I'm not going to let my Irish side take over my mouth just yet. But he was absolutely evil, a man who enjoyed raping young children in front of their parents, raping the husband in front of the wife. Yeah, that kind of sickness. And then raping the wife in front of the husband, too. What kind of evil is in your heart to do something like that to another man or a woman or a child?
Oh.
What kind of evil is in your heart? That is purely satanic. And so to me, that is one of the most satanic, probably the most satanic religions outside of Satanism itself on the planet. And now we're letting that in. We're letting that into this country. Mm-hmm. We really want that here. It's like Charlie said, it's totally incompatible with our real Christian values. They're not going to come here and assimilate. They've already said they're not here to assimilate. They're here to conquer. How many times do they have to say it? They've said it openly. And the liberals go, oh, those guys, they're so funny. No, they're here to conquer. That's what they want. So if you want things to happen to American citizens that happened to Israelis on October 7th, just keep letting them in, and that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't understand how we can call a religion when it is so violent. I mean, would we call, people that believe in cannibalism, and they say that's our religion, our God tells us to eat people? Would we be okay with that in our country too? Oh, we can't arrest him. It's his religion. That's what they do. They're cannibal religion.
Well, we got to respect the religion. No, if your religion does not respect humanity, don't tell me I got to honor your religion.
Yeah, and that's how I feel about it. I feel, look, we are a Judeo-Christian nation. That's how we were built. If your
Yes,
religion goes against our religion, it cannot
absolutely.
be welcome here. If it threatens the lives of our citizens because of the religion that our country was built on,
Mhm.
you should be banned from this country. And
You should
you're
be
not.
banned from society.
Yeah, they should not have any of those rights that we have to protect our religion. Our religion is peaceful, all God-loving, and I mean, even the Hindus that, we're having an issue with Hindus being found with Hindus. If you ever follow Sarah Gonzalez, she has found a lot of information in Texas where they've been abusing the H-1B visas, but they've been able to live side by side with us. They don't wanna hurt us, and they've been a peaceful religion, and that's how it should be, you know? But this I don't understand how you can call a religion that is not peaceful and loving and, cares about people. It's, that Islam looks at women like they're a thing,
Well, yeah, that's it.
you
They're
know?
cattle.
We're not human beings. We're a
Mhm.
thing. And that it just blows my mind that all of these leftists and these women's rights people are
Yeah,
not protecting us women.
yeah. Well, that and they're lauding some of these Muslim people as if they're just, oh, it's a religion of peace. You're smoking something if you really believe that. I don't know how that ever came out of George W. Bush's mouth. It is a religion of peace. No, it isn't. They just knocked two towers down, George. Come on. I mean, the evidence is right here in front of you. They say they want to kill more of us. It's the I'm going to breathe here because I really want to just take off and say some really brutal things about them, and I'm just going to hold off on that. So,
Well, I just can't believe that they would follow a person that was illiterate, that really everybody that writes about him never met him.
yeah,
At least we have 4 books in the Bible where they met Jesus, spoke with
yes.
Jesus, were in his living presence,
Mhm.
Um,
Not to mention Paul met him on the Damascus Road. So,
yeah, so it's like, and we've got evidence of who Jesus was. Muhammad, he's a pedophile who does horrible things to children and women and
yeah,
even little boys and brings death all around him. It's evil.
that's exactly what he
And I wish
stands
we
for.
would undesignate it, we would be unaccepting, because what they're doing is they're opening up these nonprofits and using taxpayer funds to advance their initiative, and they're
Yeah.
laughing at us saying, "These Americans are so stupid."
Well, who's
We're
teaching them how to do that? The Democrats. The
Mhm.
Democrats are the ones that have taught them how to defraud this country, especially the ones in power in elected positions. Those Somalis with a collective IQ of maybe 60, they didn't know how to defraud this government. Who taught them how to do that?
Mhm.
Well, elected Democrats in Minneapolis and the entirety of Minnesota, people in high places taught them how to abuse our system and steal our money. That's who taught them. They didn't come over here, hey, I got this great idea. We're going to go over there and abuse the American taxpayer and make all these fake daycares and fake learning centers, or leering centers as they spelled on their sign. We're
Nick
going to do all
Shirley.
that. Right. They didn't come here to do that. They came here to conquer. And guess who's helping them conquer?
Yep.
The Democrats,
Our own Americans. Our own
so-called.
Americans are destroying our nation.
Yes.
It's a really sad point in time in our history, and I don't know if, it makes me wonder if we can pull out of this, because right now, when it comes to elections, who really needs to be in office are the hardcore America First patriots that believe in the Constitution, stand for the Bill of Rights, for the Second Amendment, and we're not getting those in there because it's not a level playing field. You gotta get rid of the PACs, you know?
Well, you have to get rid of the fraud too, because
Yeah.
there's no way that Mom Donnie was elected into office. When I talk to people from New York City, they say flat out that they've had the elections rigged here forever. They get their people in. Uh, I've never met a New Yorker that likes Chuck Schumer, but yet he gets reelected every freaking time he runs. How is that? Well,
Yeah.
it's because they run the election system. Like Stalin said, it's not who votes, it's who counts the votes.
That's very true. Well, we saw it during the 2020 elections where they were
There you
boarding
go.
up windows and still the left say, no, there was no fraud, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
like,
there's too much evidence to the contrary. It's not just 2020, though. This has been going on in so many other states. And I like the fact that the FBI did raid Fulton County Election Office and apparently got 700 boxes of evidence. That's great. Do something to those people when you catch them. Do something serious to them. Make them face major prison sentences so that the rest of them take notice. Otherwise, it's going to continue.
well, and
Until we
that's
clean
what,
that fraud up, and I think that's what President Trump is trying to do in many ways, until we clean that up, we're not going to be able to get all those Americans into office like you were talking about,
Mhm.
unfortunately. The election systems are rigged in all the blue cities and the blue states. That's just what they do. They've always done that. Matter of fact, if you read history, voter fraud was one of the things that led into the first Civil War. If you read the history about bleeding Kansas, Democrats from Missouri who wanted to maintain slavery were influencing the voters in Kansas and the votes and the elections in Kansas by coming across the border. In other words, importing their voters even back then and swapping their election systems.
Mm.
Funny how history repeats itself. I guess the only thing men never learn from history is that men never learn from history. So
I'm telling you, it feels like we're in some really dark times
we
because
are.
we only have Trump for a few more years. And one of the statements that Marjorie Taylor Greene made that I totally agree with her is, look, he's made a lot of good executive orders, but they're temporary. They're band-aids.
Yep.
We need to be thinking about the future. And the Congress that we have now, it's just not going to happen
Nope.
because they're not real Republicans,
Nope.
They're
Not at
not.
all.
They're not real conservatives. They've gotten in there. I don't know how. They're maybe good salesmen, good talkers,
Mhm.
but I know that if Trump doesn't set some things that are tight and grained in, get
Mhm.
that Congress to vote on things that need to stay in place, it's going to be scary when we elect the next president because people are talking about they're already talking about, is JD Vance going to run, is DeSantis going to run, is Cruz going to run, they're throwing out all these names and I'm like, you know what, I got to think, who would I vote for already?
Well, worse than that, the Democrats are already talking about what they're going to do to conservatives when, not if, they take power back. They're already talking about uh, legally executing President Trump. They're already talking about putting on Nuremberg type trials for members of Trump's cabinet. They're already talking about one. In fact, who was the actor that played on Breaking Bad? He played the character Gustavo or Gus. He recently made a comment. You can find it on Breitbart. Made a comment that he's ready for 50 million people to die here in this country in order to bring about their communist utopia.
Wow.
They're already talking about what they're going to do. They already have plans to, like I said, look what happened under Biden. We had the gulags under Biden. Look at the
I
J6
know.
people that were tortured. They even the guards that were torturing them told them they got orders from on high to really put the screws to these guys. They did so many things totally illegal when they messed with those J6ers, and yet nothing's ever bad happened to them. No accountability for that. So what do you
Mhm.
think is going to happen under another Democrat communist president who has the House and Senate under his wing too? We are in deep doo-doo at that point, and that is when I believe, if it doesn't happen before then, that's going to spark the Civil War 2.0, unfortunately, because I, for one, will not live under communist rule. I will not, if you come to my house to disarm me, be careful taking my gun from my cold dead hands. The barrel's going to be really hot and you'll be slipping on empty brass all around me. I assure you. So we better understand the dire straits we're in, or we're done.
We really need to, because some of these people, I've met some of the J6ers, and they
Yes,
are the nicest
absolutely.
people. They are true patriots. They would bend over backwards for you. As a matter of fact, they wouldn't even care if you were Democrat, black, orange, green, yellow. If you were in peril, in danger, they would just instinctively, because that's their soul, they would
Yes.
instinctively, because life is precious to them.
Yep.
And I remember when I met, because I was trying to interview Barry Ramey. He was one of the J6ers, and I finally met him in person. I almost cried, because to think what a nice guy to be
Yeah.
treated the way he was, and it wasn't just hard on him; it was hard on his fiance.
Yes.
And then like Kelly Meggs, they lost so much, of their lives and their retirement and all the years that they spent working hard, being good taxpayers, being good citizens, just destroyed. They all
Yes.
went through something that was very difficult. And I'm like, these are really good people, but the left is just so quick, and they're so happy to want to be evil, to vilify people,
Yep.
and not to sit back and say, okay, let's think about this. Is this really just that they're ready to say die? They're ready to, say, oh, good, kind of like Charlie Kirk over dialogue. So many people got online and thought that was so appropriate
Mhm.
to to celebrate that.
They do it
It's
to you too. They'll do it to
Yeah,
you
and
too.
it's like, wow, and it no wonder our border patrol is on heightened adrenaline,
Yeah.
worried about their own lives. They want to go home to their families,
Yes. And they
they
know they're dealing with a bunch of murderously minded people.
Mhm. That have no guilt, that have pleasure in seeing that kind of
Mhm.
thing happen. And
Yep.
that's really frightening, because it seems like there's a larger percentage of it in today's world, in
Oh, yeah.
today's America. And it's almost, to me, I tell my husband, it feels like it's 50-50. That's pretty bad
It's
odds.
not. It feels that way, but it's not.
It feels that way. It feels, because it's just so out there, and you see the cities burning down. We went through all of that. We see Minneapolis, Oregon is another bad state to live in. I'm like, if I don't ever want to leave Florida. I just love Florida,
Mhm.
because it's a constitutional state. And, I was interviewing someone from New York. It was Jay Weinstein. I've been following him because he's in New York. He put together the Belmore Patriots, and he does a great job. But it's so different in states like that. Like, our state is a sheriff driven state.
Mhm.
Their state is a peace officer driven state. And when I was talking to him, I said, well, sheriffs are awesome because they're constitutional. You vote them, you might get a bad sheriff here or there, but pretty much they're the last line of our defense. They can deputize us. And he says, well, it's either the mayor or the commissioners that deputize the people. And I says, and how often is that going to happen?
Yeah.
you know,
It
like when it really comes down to it, I want to have a constitutional officer that's going to turn, because nobody can just fire. Like, if the peace officers are working for the mayor, they're going to do what the mayor says, kind of like we saw in
Exactly.
Oregon, where they stand down because the mayor tells them to stand down. If the
Right.
mayor tells our sheriff to stand down, he's going to give them the finger.
Yep. Especially
Like,
our sheriff in Brevard County.
yeah, he's like, no, I'm going to protect my people. And same thing in Polk County. He'll say, if Antifa comes here, I'm going to deputize my citizens.
Yeah.
You break in the house, or if you jump in front of a car here in Florida to riot and you get run over, that's on you.
Yeah. Sheriff Ivy said here in Brevard County, he warned people, if you try to block someone's path at a stoplight, they have the right to run you over. That's in line with Statute 776, by the way. If someone is trying to harm you, you're basically trapped inside that metal box. You really don't have any latitude. You can't move laterally. You can only go forward or backward. They've kind of got you trapped there. If they start throwing rocks and stuff at your windows, Well, let's put it this way. They do that to my vehicle, you're going to hear shots ring out. I have the right to do that. That is in line with Florida Justifiable Use of Force Statute 776, by the way. So, yeah, they try to do that stuff here. It's not going to go well. That comes down to law and order. Do you enforce law and order? That's how you deal with that mess.
Well, see, after I talked with Jay and I realized how they view their peace officers, and they don't like they have like this many peace officers and this many sheriffs and deputies. And then when they told me what the sheriffs and deputies take care of, like our guys do a whole lot more. And I just was like, wow, I'm so glad I don't live there anymore because I grew up in New York. But what worries me is when people from New York and states like that have that view come down to Florida, they don't understand how important it is to vote for the sheriff, you know, because they don't realize that the power the sheriff has.
Yeah.
And I think that could change our state if we keep getting people from like California, because California is pretty much the same way unless you move out into certain little areas like you have in Denver. In Denver, you have the city. And then if you go out like to Rifle, Colorado, it's more like country. It's more like, Florida here where you can open carry and stuff like that. But I'm like, those people are going to change Florida because they're going to become the voting base.
Yeah, that scares me. Matter of fact, I tell people all the time, and I've said it on my program, New Yorkers and Californians, yes, you're welcome, but you leave the politics that wrecked your state in your state. You don't bring that crap here. You don't want to come down here and start voting for the things you voted for there that screwed your state up and think you're going to do that here. We're going to smile at you. That ain't going to happen.
Yeah. Well, Royce, we've been an hour and a half already. It was such a pleasure.
Well, past my bedtime.
Oh my goodness. And it's Thursday. Yeah, we got to get up for work tomorrow.
Yeah, we got to go work hard so we can fund all those Somali daycares.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to thank you for joining us, and everybody can visit you at shootingstraightradio.buzzsprout.com.
Or on any podcast platform. I'm on all of them.
And they could
Shooting
just
Straight
look up,
Radio podcast.
just look that up. That's great. All right. Well, I'm going to say goodnight to you, and we'll have you back on.
Well, I'd be honored, and thank you for having me on this time. And I'm going to do a quid pro quo on you. I want you to be on my program too. So,
I'd love to.
Okay, it's not video yet, but you think after 12 years it would be on video. But I put it on YouTube at one time, and they kicked me off 4 times, and I finally said, I'm not going to try again.
Is it because of the language?
No, I don't curse on my program. The only time you ever hear me curse is if I stub my toe, and then I'll
No,
say
I mean,
curse words
you have
backwards.
to curse to get kicked off. You could like use certain words.
No, conservative content got me kicked off, and probably the way I
That's
say
what it
things,
is.
which are, I don't always say things with a little salt or grace. So, yeah.
Hey, truth hurts.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't put it in a sweet pill. So,
All right. Well, good night.
good night, Joanne. Thanks for having me on the program, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Whoops. Whoops. Hey, guys, hang in there. I just lost track of my scenes. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the show. Royce is a friend of mine. I met him on the Patriot travels of, standing up for our nation, going to gun shows, going to, other events that support candidates. Really good people. I hope to have him on again. And keep fighting for America. I'm going to bring you some more content. And remember to look me up at binfordchronicles.com. I'm also on binfordchronicles.net. And join me every Friday at 7 p.m. on the Board Report. That's brought to you by IRC Media. I am one of the managing partners of IRC Media. So join us tomorrow at 7 p.m. on the Board Report. Have a good evening.